What's up, Rockstars? Today I regret to come to you with some drama, some issues within the industry. We have some big name developers saying a lot of bad things about a content creator and vice versa. There's talk of blackmail. There's talk of being a tool and, using people and lying and all sorts of stuff. So let's dive into everything in a much more nuanced and hopefully a little bit of even a professional way. All right, so first things first, this is obviously a difficult video to make, not in the sense that I don't want to make it or something like that, though obviously it's not a fun situation, but in that things can be taken the wrong way, things can be worded wrong. I am not running off a script. I actually thought about it, but I decided not to, but I do have some bullet points. I'll probably be referencing them. You'll probably see me reference them. That's a good thing to do. I don't have a teleprompter or anything like that, so just re-referencing my notes here so I kind of stay on topic and say what I need to say. I'm going to start out with a synopsis of the issue, and then I'm going to talk about the purpose of this video and the scope of it and what's going to be going on there. And then I'm going to be talking about an explanation of why it took so long to cover this, why I didn't cover this in my last video when I could have. And then we're going to dive into the nitty gritty. Okay, so I'm going to be doing a lot of reading. I might even take a drink. I'm going to try and edit this as well as possible, but I'm also going to try and not keep it too edited for you guys. So you guys can just kind of go through the process along with me. So I've put a lot of time into this. Probably it sounds like almost half the time that they've put into the review of Antrespass Odyssey, they being Jesse from Quackalope and his team over there. So what is the issue? The issue really boils down to these two videos right here. We have a Antrespass Odyssey 9.3 out of 10 is a masterpiece, and then Aeon Trespass is unplayable, the horrible truth of Aeon Trespass Odyssey. You'll notice a few things here, like the number of views and how different those are. That doesn't surprise me in the least. Negativity sells very well. I'll probably talk about that in a little bit later on when I talk about thumbnails and stuff like that. We're going to get into it, guys. But this is kind of the contention point. Now, that is a mild contention point anyway, but what really set it off was comments like this. This is a comment from Into the Unknown on their Kickstarter in the comments section. Good luck finding it now. You can, but be prepared because there's well over 5,000 comments right now, and this is pretty buried in it. But I do have some screenshots. So this one says, not if, for example, a YouTuber contacts you, that's what that's supposed to say, months in advance to say they've shot the content, don't like the game, they could reshoot it for $7,500, we would not respond well to such a proposition. In fact, we would never work with someone like that again. And then there was actually another one that's probably pretty applicable here. There are overwhelmingly majority of those content creators who we did not pay, not offer swag, no fly them to a fancy hotel, reviewed the game very positively, and wouldn't you know it, the one that we did not want to pay does not like our game. It truly is a mystery for the ages. So, obviously, they've now made some public insinuations, I think is probably the right word there, right? Especially when it comes to a mild suggestion at the end here. And then, obviously, when talking about this one and about offering to reshoot it for some money. Okay? So, that then exploded. And by exploded, I mean it's all over everything. We're going to get into that in a little bit. But I wanted to kind of make a quick comment before I dive into things on the purpose of this video. So I want to inform you of what happened. We're going to be talking through it just like this. This is what this person says. This is what this person says. This is the timeline. Here are the series of events. We're going to get into their actual emails and see exactly what was said. So you will have all the information you need on this. So don't worry, we'll do that. And I'll add my commentary as well. I will provide commentary and context as appropriate. I'm going to have a call for kindness, and regardless of the stance, especially from those within the industry. We'll get into that a little bit too, but that's kind of the purpose of this video. I'm going to be providing you the information so you can make an informed decision on yourself, how you view it, and also provide my 2 cents, maybe 1.5 cents, maybe 2.5 cents, depending on your viewpoint of me as a person, perhaps. So I did watch the videos. My last comment, or my last time I commented on this, I only commented on the thumbnails. I hadn't watched that, and that was on purpose. That was part of what I wanted to do, but I actually wanted to reach out and hear them first before I even went to the video, because going into the video was always a little colored because of what I had heard, right? And so I try to kind of go into pretty clean. That, and I just wanted to show you guys that I love Sleep Token. But besides that, no, really, this is, I guess, a little bit of a proof in the pudding. There is a masterpiece. I did watch the whole thing 1.5 times. That's my typical, depending on how fast the person talks. For Quack, it's 1.5. The Horrible Truth of Aeon Trust Odyssey, watched all of that as well. I have seen everything they have said, and I'll comment on that also. So we'll be talking through that as well. Now, this did explode. It really, really did, to a large degree. But I took a little bit of time on this. Again, I could have had a video yesterday. I chose not to. And a lot of you guys were like, why didn't you do that? Because of this. You read everything you want on that page. I don't even care. That's why I'm zoomed in. But seriously, you'll see I was talking with Marcin and I was talking with Jesse. Okay, so I actually went and reached out to them to get more information. I saw the emails before they were posted even. Okay, so I am trying to do due diligence when it comes to reaching out to both sides, hearing what they have to say, figuring out what the best course of action is, what my feelings are in this, internalizing it, thinking about it so I don't just react to it. This is not a reaction channel for you guys. This is me putting some thought into it, having some discussions around it, and so it took longer to do that. If you want quick coverage of stuff like this, there are other channels that are more than willing to throw any kind of mud they can as soon as possible. I'm not doing that anymore, okay? So this is why, okay? So just as an FYI, I've tried to do my research. Hopefully you appreciate that. Regardless of which side you stand on and whether or not you agree with me completely or not, know that I did try to put in the effort. But it takes time. It really does. I put in pretty much all day today. Like, my wife was even making comments about how much time I was spending on this. But I felt it was important to get it right. So there's that for you there. Okay, so I said this exploded. And that's because of stuff like this. Here is Isaac. If you know who Isaac is, he's the creator of Frosthaven, Gloomhaven, stuff like that. Responding to 3-Minute Board Games, who commented on it, and he says stuff like, I mean, it was only a matter of time before this tool followed his complete lack of ethics to some place like actual blackmail. Again, a very strong accusation, a very strong feelings, very outspoken, very much Isaac. I think that seems to fit the bill, and I don't mean that necessarily in a negative way, though I do have comments on this that we'll get into later. But either way, big names we're talking about. It's all over there. He even shared an image here. I forget where it is. Right here. Oh, this sums up the channel perfectly, and just shows a picture of that. Right, just right there. That's kind of his view of the Quackalope channel. And then of course, it's all over Reddit. This is r/board game. If you don't know how Reddit works, it's a kind of a timed thing, so the hotness is never always staying there. So this is 1.8 thousand thumbs up, yet it's already not the highest, just because of how long it's been. It's been about 21 hours now. But this has a ton of comments. I mean, just a ton of stuff here, guys. All of it extremely mean-spirited, negative, as Reddit should be. I think that's pretty much what it is. It's just people that you probably wouldn't want to represent the board game industry, talking about the board game industry. They can be very, very mean. But it's everywhere. I mean, even if you look at the current hotness, right? Exclusive Quackalope's emails, and then you have, in light of recent controversies, what board gaming YouTube content creators do you enjoy, right? So, like, this is continuing to come, and the fire is spreading, and people are still talking about it. In fact, it very much affects the channel as well. This is Social Blade. It's a way to kind of look at a lot of stats of YouTube channels, and you'll see this little dip here in total subscribers, and it's this is weekly, and yeah, pretty big. It says negative 500 here. That's in the last 30 days, though. He's had plenty of growth before that. If you look here, you see he's down about 900 currently, and still dropping. Obviously, it's slowed, but it's certainly not going up very much. So while you might see 17,000 views. Trust me when I say the ad revenue is paltry. And the loss of subscribers definitely more meaningful, I think, at this point in time. So this is definitely something that is affecting both. Now, I actually reached out and asked Marcin what he thought about its effect on Aeon Trust Odyssey, and what he said is not very much. However, he did say that is because he currently has a game already out and is now an established company. How he felt is that if he had been a new company, right? If this was the first Aeon Trespass Odyssey thing, and somebody made a video like this, that it would have ruined his entire company, and that can very much impact them. So just because it didn't impact him too much, he didn't want that kind of action to continue where it could impact others. I'll be talking about that specifically with examples from my own experience very, very shortly here. But first, we need to talk about what actually happened, right? So before I talk around it, let's actually get into the nitty-gritty here. Okay, so this is Into the Unknown's official statement regarding the ATO review by Jesse Anderson. This was written preemptively, but posted after he responded. So let's see what they said. They said, "Hello, this is Into the Unknown Studio. In response to the recent developments, we have the following statement. First off, we'd like to say that everyone is entitled to their subjective opinion about a game, specifically when it comes to consumer products. We do not censor content, and we do not argue with critics and reviewers. We try to learn something from them, good or bad. We have no problem with Mr. Anderson's opinions about ATO. Second, we also have no problem with the idea of sponsored ad content. We use Facebook, Meta, and Reddit ad tools regularly. We also collaborate with content creators on things like rules, videos, summaries, and playthroughs. January 19th this year, we were contacted by Mr. Jesse Anderson, who's Quackalope, with a proposition of creating paid content for us. Mr. Anderson suggested doing 5 videos for the total cost of $7,500, saying it was a discount from $12,500. Though we were lukewarm on the prospect, especially with a price tag of $7,500, which we did not feel was warranted, we asked for further details, clearly stating that this would be considered by us as paid sponsored content, basically an ad. We also mentioned our reservations about the price. 2 weeks later, on February 3rd, Mr. Anderson responded answering our questions, but also mentioned that he had already purportedly put 50 hours into the game and produced content for it, finding the game quite frustrating. Struggling with rules, finding cards, tracking things, he suggested we should either get a developer to live stream with him or send one to Ohio, the United States, to oversee the material over the course of a week. In such a case, Mr. Anderson assured they would scrap the footage they had already recorded. He also warned that if we decided to work independently, we will likely not invest more time beyond the 50 hours of content and 8 videos we have recorded. Those are in quotes, by the way, and we'll get to the emails. This really changed the tone of the conversation for us. At this point, we really didn't want to go into any collaboration with Mr. Anderson. However, at this point, we felt pushed to a wall. Quackalope was the biggest board gaming channel with a lot of sway. Their coverage of our previous campaign had a noticeable impact on our Kickstarter result. We thought about how to get out of the situation. A few days later, we sent another email delineating rules for paid content, lamenting that Mr. Anderson found the game frustrating, asking for more details on what he found wrong with the game, as well as wanting to see the raw footage that Mr. Anderson had shot. We also proposed foregoing ATO coverage whatsoever. I had a hard time imagining the cooperation, seeing his disdain for the game, and moving to 12 Sons of Heracles, which was being designed with critical feedback in mind, more streamlined, player-friendly, with less overhead, all the things Mr. Anderson quoted as being frustrating. A week later, Mr. Anderson sent us an email but failed to respond to most of our questions or suggestions. He did not provide any raw footage for gameplay notes, doubling down on reshooting the ATO material. At this point, we broke off communication, hoping this would go away. At the end of March, our development project manager reached out for a possible first impressions video of the Learn to Play. Mr. Anderson responded saying it was too late, that he would proceed with the original footage, including some gameplay, a positive video, a negative video, Acadian versus ATO, and some more. There was nothing to add at this point, so we thanked Mr. Anderson and finalized our communications. In the days before the campaign, Mr. Anderson released videos which we assumed are those mentioned as recorded before. Each of those videos mentions he reached out to us for sponsorship, but got no answer. At the end of the week, we released 2 additional videos, one supposedly praising the game and the other calling it the most unplayable game he's ever played. In that second video, Mr. Anderson openly talks to us, the developer of the game, again offering his services to consult on game design. On Friday, I've made the offhand comment about the subject. None of this is something I would normally mention. We even posted Mr. Anderson's coverage among the others in our update, unprompted. However, seeing repeated comments from our backers, I could not shrug off the feeling that if we were in a different position, less known, without a game on the market to defend itself, basically your first-time Kickstarter creators, this would have had a dramatic impact on our company games and employees. Sincerely, Marcin Welinki, I can never say that name, I apologize, CEO at Into the Unknown Studio. Below, you'll find a full recap of the conversation with Mr. Anderson. So, essentially, after they posted the casual comments on Kickstarter, there was a lot of pushback from other YouTube creators and others in the industry saying, from devs, everybody saying, hey, we need receipts. I can personally tell you that this is definitely something that happens, right? When you make a strong accusation like this, even offhandedly, you need to either back it up or shut up. That's pretty much your only 2 options. And I'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But let's go ahead and read through these emails. Let's go ahead and see what's going on here, right? This is what they responded to. Okay, so this is from Jesse, okay? And this is around January 19th, so way early on. Hey Marcin, we have received and showcased Alien Trespass Odyssey on the channel earlier this month. We are thrilled to have it in hand and desperately want to dive into it. We got 10,000 views and 750 plus likes on our unboxing video. I wanted to reach out to see if we could work together on some upcoming coverage. We have a growing team of 4. It is very hard for us to dive into a full campaign game. Not only do we need to learn and play tens of hundreds of hours of content, but we also have to film and produce content for the channel. With Oswar last year, we were able to provide them with a wide range of content over a few months by establishing a contract for the first wave of media. This allowed myself and the team to learn, play through, and produce videos on the initial sessions. Following those contracts, we continued to produce additional media. Oswar was featured in
many of our top 10s of years simply due to us being able to spend time with it. I want to propose a similar agreement with your team. I'm requesting that you sponsor the initial coverage of ATO so that we can get into the game and give our or your community some highly produced gameplays. We would point our audience to your pre-order page and let people know where to pick up ATO and KF. Outside of that, we will produce supporting videos for your community, rules, strategy guides, top 10s, and more. We would schedule a call with you to learn the rules and make sure we get everything accurate during our sessions. We normally charge $2,500 per video. My proposal is a 5-video sponsorship at $1,500 each, totaling $7,500 for a full run of media and marketing push. These videos can be gameplays, tips and tricks, strategy guides, previews for a PM push, and more. Let me know your thoughts. Looking forward to working with you. Best, Jesse.
I'm going to take a quick aside, add a little bit of commentary here. This is very normal, very normal. If this strikes you as crazy that Jesse would say this, you are in for a rude awakening when it comes to this industry. It is extremely common, especially for smaller indie devs. They typically almost always have to pay for coverage because you only have a limited amount of time. Most of the people are like Jesse. They're just a team of 4 people. It's not some big media presence that has enough reviewers to do every little card game and every little thing. For something as big as this, extremely common to do. Notice also that he is mentioning tips and tricks, top 10s, so keep that in mind, of course. Strategy guides, previews, stuff like that. He's not saying our review itself would be sponsored here. You can read into how much a sponsorship affects that. Of course, that's up to you. But this email alone, nothing out of the ordinary here at all. The only thing that's maybe slightly different that I haven't seen a lot of is the getting on a call to learn the rules. A lot of times that's not necessarily how it works. It can be. Often, actually, that's the only way to get it, depending on where the rules are, especially with prototypes. Before an actual published game, often it's, hey, can I send you some emails if I have questions? That's been my experience. It's been an experience with a few others I've spoken to. But again, that is not everybody. I don't know everybody under the sun. A lot of this is fairly private information that people keep kind of close to their chest. But that's kind of the only thing that stood out to me in that email. So let's go ahead. Now we're at February 3rd. Again, remember, this was January 19th. So January 19th, they get something in their email saying, hey, give me $7,500. I'll make a whole bunch of cool videos for you. They get around to it in February 3rd, a few weeks later, right? Says, hey, Jesse, we were very happy to watch your boxing of the game and are excited by the prospect of working with you on some further coverage of Alien Trespass Odyssey. Apologies for the late reply, but we've been swept away by ATO success and plans for 2023 and beyond. I'm attaching Bartek, our PM, to this conversation. He will provide you with any further detail and be in touch with you on behalf of Into the Unknown. 1,500 is still a bit steep compared to the market average. Again, they probably know more than me in that regard, because obviously YouTubers aren't coming to me for coverage. But nothing we couldn't work with. At the end of the day, it all depends on what the video is, how it's put together, and what the return in viewership is. We could do a pilot and go from there. However, I do have some questions though, and there's 8 questions here. Do you have specific content or video subjects in mind? We'd suggest some discussions of the basic essentials to get to grips with the game, some coverage of how to survive the world of Alien Trespass, a discussion of the extra challenges certain primordials pose, useful gear, and Titan combinations, and so on. Any other ideas? Some fresh perspective. Number 2, roughly how long would the runtime on each video be? Number 3, how much process effects and editing do you imagine versus the more straight up vlog style? Number 4, as this would be sponsored content, how does the authorization process work for you? We do have some specific guidelines for sponsored content. Number 5, how detailed are the feedback statistics of viewership you provide, referrals, outgoing traffic, stuff like that. Number 6, do you incorporate calls to action or page linking, like visit their website at XXXX? And then we also have number 7, what's the turnaround on a video? And number 8, can we schedule video drops for specific days? I think this covers some of the basics. I'd much appreciate your thoughts on these. Okay, and then there was a response to that. Thank you for getting back to us. I would love to have a conversation with you about all the specifics. This might be best done over Zoom. Long story short, we would love to work with you. However, we did invite a Patreon member of ours down in the studio for a week to film and play as much ATO as possible. We have put about 50 hours into learning, tabling, and recording content at the moment. So again, this is not too far. This is kind of a response, but I'm assuming this February 3rd is closer to this. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but either way, within some time period, right, some back and forth, this is kind of what's happened in a relatively short amount of time. However, our experience as a group was quite frustrating overall. We struggled with the rules, finding cards throughout the decks, and tracking all the moving parts of ATO. At the same time, we desperately wanted to play through the campaign. It seems like an amazing experience for someone who is solely focused on the title and not worried about filming videos where the community can pick apart any rules mistakes. One of the benefits of working with the publisher is having a direct line of communication or help with more complicated games. That's very true. That's actually something that's almost required for prototypes, especially if you're the kind of person that's actually putting the time into it and also trying to make sure you play it correctly so that when you review it correctly, knowing that you can't just judge the rule book and assume that's what everybody's going to get. In other words, you don't have an unfair advantage that the actual viewer that watching the show wouldn't have. That's where it's kind of odd, where it's like, I want to be, like trained by you. That's kind of where that comes from. A lot of times people, especially if they're going to do a review, want to have that consumer experience, at least to some degree. So I only learned it based off of what you guys only learned too. I didn't have the developer come sit here and teach me how and then say, oh yeah, it's great. That's kind of the idea there. If we were able to move forward, we would need one of two things. Either a designer or developer who is willing to, and able to oversee the example videos if we have a private live stream system and would allow us to get everything as accurate as possible, or we would love to extend an invite to you to come and film with us in Cleveland, Ohio for a week. If we were working in a collaboration with you, we would scrap the footage we have already recorded since we want to be as accurate as possible. If we decide to work independently, we will likely not invest more time beyond the 50 hours of content and 8 videos as we recorded. That's that statement where they're like, that's where we feel that's kind of the blackmail, as it were, essentially saying that, you know, oh, hey, we're not going to do anything. We've already struggled with it. You know that now. If we move forward with it, we're not going to make this, we're not going to change this content at all. Otherwise, we're willing to kind of work on it. I have thoughts on that. I'll share that later. Let's go in and get through this system though. Let me know your thoughts and if you want to set up a call. Number 1, we are open to ideas and content that would support the community, rules, tips and tricks, gameplay, etc. Number 2, that depends on the video and what would work best for the channel. Rules videos should be as short as possible. Gameplay should be as long as the session requires, etc. Very standard stuff. Number 3, our content would be fully edited like all the produced content on our channel. Number 4, we could certainly go over the guidelines with you. Ultimately, we will try to follow them with the context that it is our channel and our audience. Hard to know without specifics. Very true there. Number 5, we don't track data like click-through links. We do have one of the biggest channels in the game industry with more engagement, specifically around titles like ATO. Our audience is your marketplace. That was actually something that stood out to me. That's a very good sale on your audience. It's a very direct sale on your audience. It's pretty much saying this is a sell through to the audience, right? That's your marketplace. Bravo for him actually coming up with that. It's not how I would word it, but it's very on the nose. We place a top link in the description and are happy to do a call to action. We would want to get everything produced in the next month or so and then release over a few months. And number 8, we can plan specific days to post. Looking forward to talking more, Jesse. Okay, so we're almost done here. Here's the response there. Hey Jesse, thanks for getting back to us on such short notice. I'm very sorry you've had a hard time learning the rules. Up until now, we've only heard positive player feedback from Learn to Play learning experience, especially with the step-by-step out-of-the-box guide we've put out. The game is getting stellar reviews. We can, of course, support you by answering any rules questions. However, we have no capacity to delegate anyone for an extended period of time, and real time at that, to say nothing of sending an employee half across the world to the US for a week. Thank you for the detailed answers. Everything checks out. As for our guidelines, it's basic stuff of paid content. The coverage should be strictly positive. That's of note, by the way. In other words, they're saying, hey, any sponsored content should be only positive. There should be no direct or prolonged comparisons to the other games. You kept coming back to KDM in the unboxing video. That would be a no-no in favor of focusing on ATO and so on. I imagine if you're struggling with the rules, a lot of the content you've already created would be unusable. Either way, we'd love to see that what you had problems with to both answer any questions and create a better games in the future. So if you can send the footage to us, even uncut, it could have someone watch it over the next few weeks. Or if you feel re-recording content might be too time-consuming, we might skip the ATO altogether and swiftly move towards the future. With the critical and commercial success of ATO, things have accelerated at ITU, and we've got several projects moving forward at the same time, including 12 Sins of Heracles, a standalone AT game that takes what we did with ATO and streamline and enhance it even further. That's coming sooner than anyone expects, and the limited demo content might be much more digestible to you than the enormous sprawl of ATO. It would be a change for you it would be a chance for you to be there at ground zero too. Beyond that, we have the Shrouded in Mystery version 3 or V3. Let us pick your brain on this. And then the response here is, can we get a meeting set up to discuss the logistics? I'd be happy to collect a set of questions and bring someone back down to the studio to film a series of supporting media for you all at Into the Unknown. I'm also very interested in your future content and would like to work closer with you and the team going forward. Since your games are so ambitious, I want to get everything as accurate as possible. If we established a working relationship, we can edit and film within your guidelines, not producing directly critical or review-based media, not comparing your titles to others like KDM, etc. I would certainly want at least one member of the team to observe a live session so we can double-check any rules questions we might have while recording. This would take about 3 to 4 hours of a team member's time. So here's my proposal. Let's set up a meeting, collaborate on some media coverage, supporting coverage for ATO, then let's figure out a working relationship moving forward. This way we can produce media our audience wants, cover your games accurately, and help you continue to build a titan of a publishing house. Let me know your thoughts and a time that works for you to chat. Okay. Then there was a response way later on March 31st. So in other words, ITU did not respond for a while on that. Okay. And then they said, hello, Jesse, sorry for the late reply. We've been a bit decimated by flu, and Marston has now been away for a bit longer. I'm writing on behalf as we would like to get back to our conversation. This is Bartek, who was added kind of earlier. We would definitely be interested in at least one video, mostly dedicated to the impressions of playing the tutorial described in the Learn to Play booklet, and at least a few more days in the campaign. We would recommend you go to the day 7 of 80 days campaign. This should familiarize you with most of the important mechanics of the game and show the multi-threaded nature of the story. It is heavily scripted in the tutorial, so it's worth continuing to see how the story unfolds. We could support you with one staff member who can answer your questions or assist with one playthrough. It would be great to have such a video for the beginning of May. Do you have a space in your schedule for it? I think it would be no problem to agree on a price as well. If you would like to, we can also have a call next week. And then the response to that
is it is good to hear from you guys. I'm sorry that the flu has gotten to you and Marcin, and that Marcin has been away. It's been a month and a half since I had heard from your team, and your audience has been, and our audience has been asking repeatedly for ATO content. Since I hadn't heard back from you, I made the decision to start posting ATO content I had already filmed. We have 4 gameplays, a KDM versus ATO review, a confirmation bias review, 1 all positive, 1 all negative, and a few other smaller videos. I hope you enjoy the content and look forward to working together in the future. All the best, Jesse. The final response after all that is, hello, Jesse. Thanks for your answer. That is understandable. We had and still have actually a very busy time. The campaign is coming, which caused some communication delays. Of course, we are open to cooperate on future projects. Okay, then we are waiting for your opinion on ATO. Very curious about this.
Now, I'm going to come back to this, but let's go in and read the final thing. I'm going to kind of just spiel at you, and then it's all discussion. We're going to actually read Jesse's response here. This is pinned underneath the horrible truth of A on Trespass Odyssey. It says, hello, Jesse here. As some of you know, I've been out of the country at the moment in Israel studying the yeshiva. I just got back online from Shabbat, and I'm doing my best to engage and respond with the limited equipment I have on hand, 1 iPad. I fly home in a week, and Shira and I get married in a week and a half. Congratulations, by the way. TLDR, we did not and have never asked a publisher to pay us in order to prevent the channel posting critical or negative content. I will do a live stream the week of June 12th, once I am back in Cleveland, hanging out and answering any questions the community has. We certainly work with publishers. We have made no attempt to hide this. We cover a range of new games, Kickstarter projects, indie titles, and old classics. This takes time. In some situations, we charge for our time, never our opinion. To the best of our ability, we label, link, and verbally declare any and all relationships we have with publishers when we cover their projects, from just being friendly to receiving a game for free, all the way to a paid and sponsored content. We have addressed this in the past, and we are always reviewing our approach. We will continue to do so. I reached out to Into the Unknown after filming in my unboxing and before filming any of the content we have posted. I reached out asking if we were interested in working with us leading up to the next campaign. I offered a package of videos 5+ and requested rules and guidance and support. They did not respond for over a month. My goal in reaching out was to secure the resources needed to allow us to dive into ATO fully. My suggestion was a series of highly produced gameplay videos and supporting content, how to play, rules clarification, strategy guides, all with the publisher's guide and support. No review content. I indicated that we hoped we would enjoy the game and keep covering it in the future videos for free. Over that month, we invited an independent fan to come learn, teach, and play the game. We wanted to play ATO. The community was asking for coverage, and so we figured out how to make that happen. We spent over a week producing these videos. A few weeks after filming content, ATO reached out indicating they were interested in working with us. They had some stipulations. All coverage needed to be positive. No sponsored coverage could compare ATO to other games such as KDM, and we needed to get the rules correct. However, they would be unable to provide in-depth rules, guidance, and support. We emailed back and forth a few times. I explained that we had already filmed a series of videos and struggled with the rules of gameplay. We wanted to love ATO and clarify that if we played or filmed anything more, we would need their help getting everything accurate. They were not able to help us beyond emailing back and forth. Into the Unknown offered to work with us on future upcoming projects, and we're willing to do at least 1 video on ATO. After considering the opportunity to build a relationship with a growing publisher in the space and the risk of missing out on future coverage, we declined this offer and let them know we had edited and were going to post our collection of previously recorded videos. In this last email, I told them that these included the 4 gameplays, 2 reviews, and a direct KDM comparison video. All of these videos were filmed before having any back and forth communication with Into the Unknown. Into the Unknown was not asked to pay us to keep these videos from going public. Into the Unknown was never shown these videos prior to them being posted. Into the Unknown was invited to collaborate with us so we could bring as much accurate coverage to the channel as possible, not so that we give them a positive review. I'll be doing a public live stream the week of June 12th once I am home, and I'm happy to engage and answer any questions then. We do our absolute best to provide entertaining, informed, and honest coverage. We will keep doing this, Jesse. Okay, so let's break this apart a little bit, and then I'm going to just do some talking points and list the issues I see here, and both sides are at fault here. So we're going to kind of discuss this. Okay, so let's go to the order of operations here a little bit. Let's just kind of get the order set here, okay? So Jesse makes an unboxing video, shows it off, gets over 10,000 views and 750 plus likes. That's very good. Good for him. People definitely love it. His channel is good for games like this typically because he's such a big fan of KDM and stuff like that. And he then pitches, hey, let's do some content, 7,500 for a full run of these videos, mentioning gameplays, tips and tricks, strategy guides, previews, okay? And then, not too far after, as far as I can see here, right, January 19th and February 3rd here, they have a response saying, hey, that's a bit steep, here's some questions we have around that. And then the response to that is, hey, I've actually already put 50 hours into it now. We've recorded 8 videos. We're struggling a lot. But if we were to work together, I would scrap the footage. Now, this is mentioned before Into the Unknown says that the guideline is to be positive. That is actually made afterwards, right? So afterwards is when they say the stuff like, that it would need to be positive right here. The coverage should be strictly positive. So that is in response to him saying that. That was not him saying it was like per their guideline. He offered to scrap it before that was ever mentioned. Now, I don't think that's inherently a bad thing. I mean, even as he says, right, since we wanted it to be as accurate as possible, the negative part that can happen there is that kind of hides the fact from his viewers that he struggled with it and needed help from a developer to play it, right? That's kind of the issue there. But the idea that like he was like purposely saying like, hey, if we work together, it could be read that way. It's definitely readable that way. I personally don't think it was that overt. I don't think it was that malicious, if that was the word choice to use here. I think it was really just saying, hey, I can't play this game. So unless you're willing to pay me, like I'm not putting any more time into this, and you're going to have to help me to get it right because I apparently can't do it. And I'm not trying to diss him that he can't play it right or something like that. It's just, I think that's where his headspace at is like, I want to play this and I'm struggling. Okay. But I can definitely 100% see how it was read that way because, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what he's offering, saying, hey, if we work together, if you pay me, I will scrap the footage. That at the end of the day, that is an offering that he's putting there before being told that that is one of their stipulations. So that is a little wrong here in his statement where he talks about that. Right? It says right here, they had some stipulations. All coverage needed to be positive. No sponsorship coverage could compare ATO to another game, blah, 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 blah. And that is true, but that was told after he had already offered to remove any negative coverage that he had on that and kind of redo it. But again, my personal opinion, I don't think it was malicious. I can see exactly why it would be viewed that way. Okay, so I get it. Okay, so with that, let's actually kind of scroll around to this here. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about thumbnails. Okay, and then I'll talk more about another piece here too. But the thumbnail of a YouTube video, if it's made at all, is made for the express intent to get you to click on it. It is its sole purpose. It has no other purpose. If you don't care, you just don't make it. You will see video of people doing that, where it'll just be a screen grab. So if you don't upload and craft a specific image file for YouTube to use, it'll take a screen grab of the video that I guess the AI thinks looks interesting or whatever. It'll typically be a dude standing there in front of his camera or whatever, right? Like that is what it'll always have a thumbnail, but if it's crafted at all, it's there to get your interest. And the sea of other videos that you see, it's saying, hey, you're gonna want to click on that one. This is in combination with the title. Both are used to try and get you to click. It's trying to get you to be interested in the subject. It's trying to tell you what the subject is about. It's trying to make it to where you want to hear more. If it answers your question, you're not going to click the video. You're just going to be like, okay, I guess that's the case, and then move on, right? It's meant to make you find out. So in that sense, it's all clickbait. 100% of it is, right? It's all there to be enticing and to wrap it up into something that's a bit exciting, right? Totally fine. I think we can all agree with that because at the end of the day, that's this reality. There's no real arguing with that. It's its purpose. It's why it's there. Now, the problem is negativity. That's the problem. You see, as long as you could put 11 out of 10, you could put whatever positive thing you want. And for the most part, nobody's going to have any ruffled feathers. It's hunky-dory. Nobody's upset at you for saying this game's amazing. I mean, you'll get some people are like, every game's amazing and stuff like that. But trust me, it's a lot less than when you see something negative. When something is said negative, it needs to be said a lot more care. There's a few examples I have around this. So, you see, I've made the mistake as well. When I first started this channel, I definitely did not consider anything I did as super important. And what I mean by that is I didn't respect the environment I was in and the platform I had. I viewed myself as just a guy with a camera. I viewed myself as just one of you guys, just having a chat as a consumer about these dumb companies and the stupid things they do, right? Like that was pretty much it. And that's kind of very much how I viewed myself and viewed my take on the channel. I wasn't there to play any games. I wasn't there to make anybody happy. I'm just there to say what I want to say without a care in the world otherwise, because I'm just a guy with a camera. Who the heck cares what I have to say? And then I made a review for Wild Ascent Levon Rising as an example. And I did not like that game. And normally, normally reviews filter out negativity naturally. So if you feel like a lot of the content is positive, it's because naturally, if you think the game looks like crap, you just say no thank you. You don't want to play it. You're not some company where your boss is telling you you have to review this game, so go review it and give it a 2 out of 10. It's like, no, you just say no, I don't want to play that. You just either ignore their email or you move on or you say no thank you or whatever, right? Like you don't put that on yourself. Most of us have limited time. Most of us don't have a big company doing anything like this. This is not media coverage in that sense. So a lot of negative reviews are filtered out from natural selection of just the reviewer realizing they won't like it. Wild Ascent, I thought I might actually relate because I really enjoyed Storm Thunder. I played it and found out I enjoyed Storm Thunder more in every single aspect. I felt it was a much better game. And so I literally, even on my thumbnail, I said, just buy Storm Thunder. I told my viewers, guys, if you're like me and you thought you would like this, you might not. When I posted that video, the same day, they dropped $8,000 in funding. Now, that is not to say that I have some direct link where I caused all that. I don't pretend to even assume that, and there's no way to really prove that either. But what it does show is that, like, it made me realize that, like, okay, well, what I say actually does impact other people. When I say something negative about a game, especially during its campaign, I actually posted it around the last 48-hour mark, which was also kind of rough for them. But either way, like, what you say matters, right? When you make a video like Alien Trespass is unplayable, it's super important to realize what you're doing and how that can affect a lot of people, a company, a platform, all that kind of stuff, right? When Marcin from Into the Unknown said, well, it didn't affect us much, I know how much that would have affected us if he had done that when we were first starting, right? So it could just be a sense of, if they're big enough, I could say whatever, right? Kind of like dissing Come On, right? I think we all kind of do that because, like, it's Come On, they're whatever, they're fine, you know? It's just some big company. It's not just some small indie group or whatever. But either way, there's definitely some nuance when it comes to the negative stuff like that. Additionally, there's a responsibility around saying stuff that's super negative. This goes to both sides. You see, when Into the Unknown was first posting stuff like this, that's super casually written, and it insinuates a lot, which is why they had the reaction they did, where people are like, you need receipts. You can't just say this crap. Either show us or shut up, because that's how it is. I had the same thing when I talked about shipping. Okay, so again, I've made these mistakes. I've learned this the hard way. I'm now on the other side of that, hopefully, or at least more to the other side and a little bit closer to being better. Certainly trying. But like that, I feel it because I've done it. Okay, so I understand, and it sucks. But that's really what it is. If you're wanting to say something strong like that, like, hey, they just didn't like it that I paid the money and they offered to delete it. Like, you gotta back it up, or don't say it at all. Now, I will say that I think another thing that they could have done, if they had some concern around blackmailing or, extortion or any word choice you have there, is they could have actually come to somebody like me or somebody that, or Dicebreaker or whatever. Like, there's a whole lot of either channels or websites still that try and cover the industry. And really that's where you should go, is kind of towards the press side of things. I'm not exactly sure companies should be the ones doing this, especially during their campaign where they're like, essentially like talking back or bad mouthing or something like that, a bad business deal essentially, or what it results to. I think that's definitely something that probably should be fed through other channels. Because then it's just, hey, here's my concern. You do the research, report on it. Then if you don't get justice as you see it, then I think you can do that. But I think you try and follow those channels first, right? It's kind of like if you're in the Army and you find out the Army's doing some nasty stuff, you're supposed to tell your supervisor or whatever, right? And then if you don't see anything happen, that's when you dog whistle, right? But to dog whistle right away, not even try to make changes isn't necessarily, I know it's not a perfect example. I realize that as I say it, but it's the same kind of idea. Or like Wormwood had with their issue, right? It's like, instead of just saying, hey, I have a problem with another employee, and then just saying it, you should go to your management first and have them try and solve it, or HR. And if you don't see traction there, that's when you take the other course. But your first course of action should probably be to go to an alternative means to kind of get that out. My opinion on that. I think this comment shouldn't have been made, or at least not by them, at least not right away. Personal opinion on that. Okay, so to summarize, respect the platform you have. That includes a company, that includes a YouTuber. Like, just realize that when you say something, thousands of people are reading it. It's very hard to think that thousands of people are watching what I say right now. But I'm letting that color how I speak to you so that I'm not as super casual as perhaps I have been in the past, because I'm trying to respect the platform that I have. Just like I think everybody else needs to respect whatever platform they find themselves in as well. And number two, when you say negative things, you should really, really look at it differently, right? I mean, you should like really figure out, like, if you're going to say something negative, that like you really need to take care with that. A point on that, watching this unplayable thing, he kind of alludes to like essentially not really reading the rule book. He wanted, at first, after the boxing, he wanted them to teach him. And then he's like, okay, then I invited a Patreon to kind of come teach me. And what I found, again, myself early on, is that if I don't do the proper research in being super critical, like when you're really critical, that if you really don't know what you're talking about, it's going to get picked apart, right? People are going to point out that and almost not listen to what you have to say because you've got something wrong, right? In other words, like, you're just saying that because you just don't know how to play. If you had read the rule book, then come talk to me. It's kind of the comments I was seeing a lot of people make, and that's why that is, right? Like, it's why typically my reviews are a little bit later, because I do tend to have some pretty specific criticisms and examples, and that's because I very much feel comfortable criticizing it, because I feel comfortable knowing exactly what it is I'm doing. I think many devs, if you're watching this now and you've sent me a prototype, you probably have heard from me asking questions during the prototype, making sure I'm playing things right. I know I've bugged several of you, a lot more than others, but it definitely comes up where I try to make sure that I play things right, because I tend to be one of the reviewers that is a bit more critical, a little bit less fluffy in my praise of games. And that's just my personal style, but I do try and make sure that you know what you're talking about. Like, you gotta really be on top of it if you're gonna hit them hard. And in fact, the harder you hit, the more positive you have to be that you're in the right. Just because otherwise, it takes a platform from underneath you. It makes your whole criticism pointless, and people just stop listening, right? And I mean, maybe it's because you just got it wrong. You know, maybe you should have done it right, right? Like, that's what people are gonna say. That's what everybody's gonna say. So that's kind of a risk as well too. Okay, so I've kind of discussed what Into the Unknown did wrong. They should not have posted those comments casually in the comment section. I think that was inappropriate, and really did this whole death spiral that now caught on fire as it's spiraling out of control. That's where we're at right now, and it definitely affects. Just like he could affect people with his videos, they can affect people with what they state. It works both ways. Everybody needs to realize, like, just to not say anything casually. Make sure you're saying things right. Jesse, however, I felt definitely did an issue here. So if we go back to the email chain, I want to point out one thing to you. So way back at the very end here, so since I haven't heard back from you, I made the decision to start posting the ATO content I had already filmed. We have 4 gameplays, a KDM versus ATO review, a confirmation bias review, one all positive, one all negative, and a few other smaller videos. This confirmation bias review is an issue. This is the issue. I can promise you right now that if they had just said, here's our Aeon Trespass Odyssey review, and it included everything they said in this and everything they said in this, we would not be having this video right now. It's just as simple as that. It would be a straight up, this is my review, here are the positives, here are the negatives, in a much more nuanced way. I guess perhaps the tone is different. It's a very kind of casual, just kind of like crap fest in this, and a very kind of casual gushing fest in this. They're very much purposely spun that way, right? He even introduces it as a confirmation bias. He essentially, this is for views. It's exactly what it is. He wants people to, if they feel good about the game, to see this and be happy. And he wants people that if they feel bad about the game, they see this and be happy. He wants to play both sides and have both love their own video. It's why it's done that way. It's why it's split up. You get double the views. You get double the ads. It's a very smart way, like without the nuance. It's a very smart way of doing things to get views, to get clicks, to get people to enjoy the content that they're watching, because they're seeing exactly what they want, the confirmation bias. but it is a terrible way to actually critique things. It just makes people not listen because it just ends up being kind of a poo-poo fest, right? Which is kind of what it is. When you start out with, this game is unplayable and you put it right next to this game is a masterpiece, it breaks what you're saying. Whereas if you had just said the positive things and just said the negative things in a review and actually kind of been, I don't mean this to sound in a bad way, but a bit more mature about it, about what you're doing and kind of where you're operating, the space that you're at, the platform that you have, and what you're doing for this company and for your viewers, this would have been completely avoided. 100% I feel that way. Let me know in the comments if you feel otherwise, but I very much believe that he could have had the criticisms he had, which I feel a lot of them were quite valid, and a lot of the positives he had, which again were quite valid, in a review, even if it was a mostly negative review, and people would have just moved completely on. But the choice to specifically do a confirmation bias, where you're purposely trying to pump up one as big as possible to be positive, and trying to purposely dumpster fire one as badly as possible, that's where it gets bad. Because again, it's that negativity that you gotta really be smart about that when it comes to how you present that. So I guess that's where I stand on that. Like, things could have been handled better here. The idea that you want to do 2 confirmation bias reviews is a choice that will always lead eventually to this. There's one last point, and then I think I'm done. Inherently, if you want to make hard criticisms, I call them softball criticism and hard criticisms, it's going to be a struggle, and you're going to get messy situations like this if you're also wanting money. So going back to the email, right? Going back to the whole like, hey, I'll scrap this, to kind of help out or whatever, right? That sort of like scrap footage thing doesn't really have too much of an issue if there's not money involved, right? Like if this was just you trying to work with them, to get better content, if it was just, I want to get stuff as accurate as possible, then that would be one thing. But really what you're saying is, I want to be as accurate as possible when I'm paid. And so that's where the issue is. That's where people have a lot of issue. I don't think there'd be nearly as much, even if you did the split, even if you did that, if there was no ask for money, this again would not have been a big issue. It really wouldn't have. It's just inherently messy. You can do softball criticisms while getting paid very easily. Softball criticisms are stuff like, I didn't like that. That wasn't my favorite. I would have liked if it did this better or more or different, right? All those kind of things are very mildly stated, right? It's not this, right? It's very, again, it's softball. It's not going to hurt you if it hits you. You're going to say some things that are negative. You're still saying you didn't like this, but the way you present it matters for paid content. So when you're asking for money and then not get it and then have something like this, that's what everybody's going to look at. And as long as you continue to want to get paid and do hard critical reviews or opinions, it's going to happen again. This will not be the last time it happens. There's going to be some situation where a deal didn't go through, as businesses work. And I mean, that's just how it rolls sometimes. And then you're going to do a critical thing, and all it takes is them to say, hey, he asked for money and then did a critical review when we didn't give it to him. It'll happen again and again and again throughout the history of the channel. That something needs to change there. I'm not saying don't take money. I'm more saying change how you are negative. I think that's probably the best bet. That's definitely the best way, I think, to handle that. So again, I don't think it was necessarily malicious. Not my opinion that it was, but it can certainly look that way, and it will look that way every time. There's just no other way around it. Unless you land every business deal you propose, eventually you're going to be critical of something where a business deal didn't go through, and this is just rinse and repeated over and over again. You can't do both. It's it's not even so much what you feel, it's how the public perceives it. Right? I mean, as unfair as that is, if the, I think it's, the journalistic code of conduct or whatever, they talk about preventing even the illusion of, as essentially, ulterior motives. Again, my words are failing me. I do apologize. But, essentially it's saying, like, even if you're not friends with this guy that you're reporting on, you need to avoid situations that would make it look like it, so that other people can't point to that and say, I think otherwise. If that even shows up, there's issue, because then no matter what, when you're critical, it's going to show up. It's going to happen again, or not critical. It's going to show up again and again and again. There's no other way to do that. Either kind of have to lean in all the way, or not at all, really. Or again, be a little bit more nuanced and mature around how you present positives and negatives. Again, I think if this had been a little bit of a tamer thumbnail and a combined video, you'd have a ton of views. People would commend how critical you are, how astute you are in your observations, and you would have 900 more subscribers right now. So that's kind of the bummer with that. I do want to end one last statement. People need to be freaking nice, okay? like I have read some of the filth written on Reddit. Where is Reddit? Dear Lord, I don't tend to go there. I barely know the symbol. Nobody is nice on Reddit. They all just curse up a storm and call people names and make fun of them and make jokes at their expense, and are just generally terrible people to be around. Now, that's not obviously everybody, but there is a large segment of the board game community on Reddit that is extremely nasty and unkind to others. It's where I've been called the worst names. It's where Jesse now probably has as well, where people say some absolutely just mean-spirited things. They're obviously not happy with where they're at in their lives. They feel going online and saying mean things to others somehow makes it better. It's the only way I can think of it. I don't think anybody happy with their life goes onto the internet and just says nasty things to people. I don't see that being a thing. But our board games definitely has a problem with that. I've seen it. I've been on the receiving end of it. I've not been perfect. It's why I'm kind of speaking from experience here, and I learned the hard way, and I'm still learning obviously every day. But that's bad. But even like Isaac coming out here and calling him a tool and stuff like that, or then just saying actual blackmail casually, it's the same thing kind of as everything else, right? I mean, the mud flinging within the industry against the industry isn't necessarily needed. I would have much preferred to see ideally a more nuanced discussion like this than just calling people names. I think calling people names, whether it's a tool, whether it's, anything that Reddit comes up with, they're a little bit more ingenious in their names than just tool. I just don't get the labeling. I don't get the pettiness of it. I think that's very immature of Isaac to do, and I don't appreciate seeing that either. Especially, I don't know. It just doesn't seem right. You can disagree with somebody, you can be critical of someone, but just like his video, right? Just like this is the Jesse's a tool comment, right? This is that's not the way to actually be critical of somebody. It's not the way to actually get a point across or to handle negativity. There are better ways to do that, more mature ways that you can still do that, but in a much more professional manner. Okay. That's it, guys. I guess that's all I had to say. I've been trying to do better on this channel. I hope you appreciate that. If you appreciate me reaching out like I did here, if you appreciate how my reviews have been, you got to see my Aeon Trespass Odyssey review. I'll link down to the description below. I did it in a different style that I hope you guys appreciate. You're really trying to drive that pros and cons home, and really trying to handle reviews in a more mature way. But I'll actually have a video on my Patreon exclusive to that, talking about how I got to that point, why I do the reviews I do, the research I did, all of that. So if you're interested in that sort of stuff, kind of the behind the scenes of how these channels kind of run and stuff like that, I'm going to be doing a lot more of that in kind of a series over there. So feel free to check that out as well. Guys, thank you so much. I always appreciate it. Again, be respectful. It is fine to disagree with me, to disagree with Jesse, to disagree with Into the Unknown or anybody else under the sun. But you don't have to call people names. That all that does is hurt your argument. Be a better arguer and just stick with the facts. Guys, thanks so much. Have a great rest of your time. I'll talk to you guys again real soon for something ideally a lot more fun. Take care, guys. Bye.